Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss at Internet Shitlords. And before I begin, let me say the Last Vikings has been selling like hotcakes. It hit copper bestseller in under a day, and then it hit silver bestseller in just around 48 hours. So I'm guessing anytime soon it's going to start to hit Electrum bestseller. And I'm very grateful to everybody who's purchased it. If you haven't yet, you totally should. If you don't know what's in it, you should check out in my channel. There, a couple of videos down is my flip through of The Last Vikings, where I explain all about it. It is a source book for Baptism of Fire, but you can also use it it's self-contained as a setting, right? So you could use it with any other OSR game if you really wanted to, but it's set in the exact same time period as Baptism of Fire, right? This is just happening in the Baltic and the North Sea. So it's completely compatible, and I guess people really just love Vikings. Hey, look, it's Domino. Hi, Domino. How's it going? Where are you going? Gonna go sit on my lap? You can try if you want to. Go on. What are you doing? She's in a funny mood today. Yeah, she's been a little bit needy today. I'm not sure why, but she's already recovered from being spayed. Basically, she hasn't gotten the last of her stitches out there, but that'll be on Saturday. But today she's just been acting a bit weird and clingy. But that's okay. Hey, it's okay. Okay, whatever you want. What do you want? What do you want, cat? Are you gonna bite me? Yeah, see, I knew what she wanted. She wanted to bite me. She likes to bite for play. It's not usually very hard, but it still leaves marks. All right. Now, can I continue with my video, Domino? All right. Thank you. So, thank you all who got The Last Vikings. If you haven't yet, check out that video where I explain what's in it, and go pick it up. And if you have already gotten it, please, if you could spare a moment, you could put, assuming you got it on drive-through, you could put a quick rating on there, or if you wanted to and had more time, a review. I would really love that. That would be great. And yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, find out what all the fuss is about. I mean, it is probably the most historically authentic Viking sourcebook ever made, though there are a couple of others that are quite good, as some of you old timers would know. But this one is great because it's set up for a campaign as the Joms Vikings doing their various famous deeds. So check that out. Second, before I forget also, the Pundit Files number 35 is out. You can only get that at the Red Room, and it costs $3.50. So if you can get $3.50, you can get the Pundit Files 35. And this one is very special because it's a collaboration that I did with Zoran Peterson, who is the grandson of Sandy Peterson, creator of the Call of Cthulhu RPG. And it's called The Dungeon of Doom, all in capital letters. So look for the link below. It is a fantastic adventure, and you're going to be terrified by it. Actually, it's a very lethal adventure. The kind that only a 13-year-old whose granddad created the Cthulhu craze could be capable of doing. So you should really check it out. It's fantastic. And it's there at the Red Room store. And while you're there, check out all the other Pundit Files books and the Red Room products as well. All right. Getting now to the main topic. Since I did that video on The Last Vikings, I remembered I tend to forget that I'm not done, because this is such a big book. I couldn't do a single review video. I've been going chapter by chapter. And I'd kind of forgotten that I hadn't gotten to that yet, right? That I haven't gotten all the way. And also another thing that reminded me of what I was at with Baptism of Fire is that I had a person who just purchased, it wasn't Baptism of Fire actually, it was the Sword and Caravan and all of the source books at the bundle that Mad Scribe has for Sword and Caravan. You can get them all in one bundle. And this was a guy who had only ever run 5e. And so he was asking me, well, but what are the adventure paths for this? What kind of campaigns have you written any campaigns for it? Right? I'm like, okay, no, hang on. This is a sandbox. And then I started explaining to him how a sandbox works and what a sandbox is and how you run it. And, actually Wilderlands is really good about that, because if you've got Sword and Caravan and Wilderlands, the very first page is a literal point-by-point guide, right? Of like, okay, so if you're going out into the Silk Road, you check on this table, right? And then next, if you're like out in the wilderness, you check on these tables. You go to this page and then you go to that page, right? When you're approaching a city, you check out what the rumors are of what's going on in the city. When you get there, these are the encounter tables, and this is the probability of your having problem with authorities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So it's all laid out. But it reminded me that there are people out there who could possibly get my game that have no idea how a sandbox is supposed to work. So with that in mind, I will get to where we left off. We left off after we were talking about the pagan gods of Poland. And there we are. That was it. And the next part is we get to the appendices. And this is Appendix 1. It's very important. Road, trail, and Wilderland encounters. So basically, the way I run this, my own Baptism of Fire campaign, I run it with the timeline that is in the book, right? In terms of large scale events that happen year to year. I keep track of a calendar. No, it's not 1/1 time. That's stupid. I have an internal time of the setting, right? And that keeps track of what everybody is up to and what's going on. And then for like the adventures, I once in a while I might think up like a scenario and say, okay, yeah, that's cool. Let's try that, right? So I'm not. There's no reason to be an absolutist, right? But a lot of the times it has to do with something that's going on right now, or something that has been rolled in the domain tables now, because now one of our characters is a noble that has land, and so there's events tables that come out of that. Or something that is rolled randomly as an aristocratic event from 101 Sarmatians. Or the player characters want to do something. And that often happens now, right? So like there's one character, we ended up doing like 3 sessions because there was one character who was trying to find and kill his father because his father murdered his mother and then left him as a slave to the Pomeranian barbarians, right? And he was out for revenge, and the whole party decided they were going to go and track this guy down, right? When they found out that he was still alive, and where to find him, So it was that's great. That sort of stuff is fantastic, right? If it's player motivated in game, not something out of game like I want to have this feat, right, or something like that. No. If it's something, but it's something in the world that your character wants to do, then you as a DM, if there's a player that has that, then totally run with it, right? I mean, assuming the rest of the party wants it, it's kind of up to them, not you, but still, you know what I mean? Don't discourage it, right? And then the first step in running the game, basically, like once my players decide where they're going, is that they start to travel, right? And there's these wonderful hex maps that are all over the place in the book. Well, not all over the place, only in the areas of the large map and then the individual territories in the description, right? So these hex maps, right? And so like you're going to travel, right? And so that means that when you travel every day, you roll once on the table, one of the 3 tables, right? So the first table is for road encounters, right? So if you're traveling along the Salt Road or the Pomeranian Road, there are only like 5 roads in all of Poland at this time, right? That's how backwards it was. But if you're on one of those roads, then you use the first table. This first table you will find has been very carefully weighted in such a way that it has much less probability of dangerous encounters and more probability of more common encounters, or sometimes unusual encounters that can be in themselves adventure cues, right? If you're not going along the road, but you are traveling along a recognizable trail, which generally means either following a minor road or a river, right? Or a space between two nearby cities could potentially have a trail, right? Essentially, a common traveling path, that would be the trail encounters. And on the other hand, if you're like going into the middle of the forest or into the high hills, well, then it's the Wilderland encounters. And those are the ones that are the weirdest and the most dangerous and possibly the most, the ones that have the most compensation, so to say. Whereas trail encounters are halfway. There's a much higher risk than the road, but much less than the Wilderland. And the road you can still have an encounter with a creature, right? Like at any given time, it's a 10% chance that day you will encounter some kind of creature. Now that creature, when you roll on the table for the encounter, might be milder than the one that you would find in the middle of the mountains or the forest, right? And so each entry has its own material detailed there, and you will see some of these will be directly problems, right? Conflicts of some kind, right? Some of them might be, or they'll have their own subtable. They might be like the hermit could be a nice person, a holy man, or something like that might be helpful to you in some way. It could be some lepers, which could be dangerous, right? It could be someone who's gone insane that may or may not need help. It could be an evil witch, right, that you're going to have to confront. And some of these are likely to be able to generate their own side quests, so to say, right? Like if you run into a madman who's gone insane, who's living like an animal, so maybe the guy's like 50% chance he's just going to attack you, and then you probably end up killing him, right? But let's say it's not, the other 50%. He's a rambling lunatic who might try to follow the PCs, and the PCs might decide, well, maybe we should cure him of his madness, right? So they're going to go find a magister or a holy man, That's the kind of stuff that gets generated along the way, right? And there's another one, the random lunatic table. If you run into a madman in other contexts, there's random, and then there's, merchants. You could, an encounter with a merchant doesn't mean, or a merchant caravan, doesn't mean that there doesn't have to be any adventure, right? Like, there is any possibility at any time, it says here, that the DM can roll on the random merchant problem if he wants to make an adventure queue out of that, right? Pagan wizard or witch, and their motive table. So you can see lots of subtables here, random objects, stuff that you just found lying around, right? Random pagan community. So if you're in the Wilderlands, here's the thing. The Wilderlands like the deep, dark, forgotten places that are so far from civilization no one knows what's in them. And a lot of times what's in them is pagan communities, right? So there's a chance, and here's a whole generator for you to create that type of pagan community. And then you have warrior events, people, and then there's random settlements, right, which are bigger than just a community, right? A community is like a little tribe, but a settlement is basically a village, right, with 2d100 people or so. And this has, again, tables for a ruler, the disposition of the ruler, local economy, and settlement features. And and that's it. The next one is the other thing. It's a random weird sites, right? Weird places. So there's all kinds of possible things that will develop as you're going along on this adventure, right? And if you do it right, and I mean, obviously at first, you're not likely to be perfect at it if you've never actually done kind of sandbox play before. But in both my Baptism of Fire and my Sword and Caravan campaigns, I run at this kind of, with the support of the tables that I created, a full sandbox. Like, I never know what's going to happen in an adventure, except if it's something that, like, the events of the timeline, right? So, like, this year in the campaign, Boleslav the Brave is invading Slovakia, okay? So that we know is going to happen, or I as the DM know is going to happen. I don't know for sure what the player character's involvement in that will be, though, because they might end up doing something else, right? And I don't know what they're going to run into in their journeys, and somehow it never ends up being boring, right? Like, or almost never. There are somewhere are more routine than others. Somewhere you could go like days and there's like no really interesting encounter. But usually that means that the rolls are going to be just faster, right? Because if nothing is happening in the day, you just go through it, right? Unless you get some player that insists that they want to, I don't know, craft 15 different illusion wards every day, you know, and then that eats up time. That can happen, but then as a DM, you just got to go with it, right? But the point is, most of the time, my players now know, of course, how I do this, so it's not a surprise anymore. But I have had players comment to me, especially newer players in both of those campaigns, that had said like, "Oh, well, how did you think this up?" or something. I'm like, "No, I didn't. I rolled it at the moment. When you guys went into the forest, I rolled on the forest encounter table and this thing happened, right?" Or something like that. And yeah, there's this random place that you guys went to, this random settlement. I rolled for that too at the moment, right? And then just ad-libbed it. And doing that, for some of my players, like I had a couple of players in my Sword and Caravan game has new players, people who never played with me, and some that weren't all that familiar with me until they joined, and they at times were convinced that I was pre-writing scenarios, right, and that this was something that was planned, right? And I said, no, this is all just using the tables in the right way. So this is how easy it can be if you get the hang of it, right? So here we have Appendix 2 are creature lists by terrain and region. So when you get a creature encounter along the travels that you're doing, you would look based on the terrain that they're in, right? So if they're they're close to a town, if they're in the same hex or an adjacent hex to a town, they probably roll in the inhabited area towns. If they're by a river or a sea coast, they could roll on the river, lake, coastal. Otherwise, you're going to roll on the terrain that is most like the road or trail or wilderland that you're in, right? Which is plains, forests, hills, mountain, swamp, right? And this will generate a type of monster that you then look up in the monster manual and in the monster section, rather. There's also some specific regional monsters, because there are some monsters that are only found in one part of Poland, right? So, or only in certain parts. So this is if you're in the Vistula region, Zivozona, there you go. Zivozona can only be found in the Tatra Mountains, right, or the Carpathians, and so she is encountered in the Vistula region or in Silesia, but not, say, in Greater Poland. On the other hand, Greater Poland has the giant mice around Lake Goplo, which are a unique creature there. So you can choose to supplant those for something else if you're in that specific region. Next, you get to a town or a city or a village. First thing you can do is roll to see if there's an event in a town, city, or village. So all three, there are three columns here for village, town, and city. And depending on which one it is, you would roll and then see what has happened. And there are a variety of different events that could be taking place. Now, do you always have to roll it? No, not necessarily. If you think you're just going to, the character's just going to zoom through, they can. If you want to, you always can, though, because there could be something wild happening. Also, if you run into a merchant, or if you stop by a smaller village or farmstead close to the town before you get there, that's when you should roll this too, because the people around are probably going to know if there's some important news happening, right? And some of these areas, and some of these things like a harsh winter or a heat wave would be regional, so it would affect the whole area. So you'd want to make those checks before you're actually at the town, if you can. And again, some of these are fairly common or unimportant. So, a market fair that is going on, well, that means that you can get more things to buy or sell, and Skomrozny could probably get some work doing busking and things like that, right? An important building. Okay, so maybe there's a construction going on, that might be something that just the player characters will see. Oh, look, they're putting up a new cathedral or something, right? But it won't actually involve anything in particular. But if there's something like, if there's a fire, well, that's a big deal, right? That can mean devastating harm. The characters arrive there, there's just been a fire. Maybe, did they own a house there? Well, there's a 10% chance, if you owned a house, that your house burned to the ground. So, and then other things like famine or droughts or harsh weather. All of those could affect the costs of food or the availability of certain items, right? And then you've got like outright religious conflicts or things like that. The pagans and the Christians are fighting each other. That is going to be something where you're probably going to be caught up in it, right? And to say nothing of if there's the plague, the town might be largely abandoned by anyone who has the money and ability to abandon it, right? And you might not want to go in. But let's say you do go into a town, you're going to go in there and do your thing. Well, there's unwanted attention, right? So this is a mechanic by which you determine how many days will go by before the people in authority will notice you, okay? And so the number of days it takes is higher in a big city. Like in a big city, it could be a dozen days or more that you could be around and no city authorities will take notice. Versus a village, where usually by at most the second day or to the fifth day, you're going to catch the attention of the people in charge, right? Now, if you do get unwanted attention, there's the percentage chance. At that point is where there's a percentage chance of there being a reaction, right? And so in a city, the percentage chance is lower than in a village, because a village is going to be more judgmental, okay? And then the base chance is doubled if the characters are clearly foreign and don't act like typical normal, people. And there are some other things that can modify it. For example, if you're going around with like magicians, that will make it worse for you. If you've gotten into a fight, that'll make it worse for you. If you're clearly not of the dominant religion, that'll make it worse for you. If there's people with you that look very deformed, that'll make it worse for you. If you've brought in a like enchanted wild monster with you, that'll make it worse. Now, if you have a holy man and it's a pagan area, that'll also make it worse. But if you have a holy man in a Christian area, that'll make it quite a bit better, actually. And if you've got someone who looks noble, it'll make it better as well, right? Looks to be a noble. And then if you fail this check, it means that if you get some kind of attention, then you will either be arrested or asked to leave town or possibly attacked by an angry mob, right? It's that sort of thing. So your characters have to watch their behavior, or at least you will be seriously questioned. So this is kind of a guide to the DM to make sure that he emphasizes the fact that your player characters are not always normal, right? So how they'll act will depend, right? If there's a holy man or a noble there, they're going to act very different than if it's just a bunch of weirdos, right? Next, you have encounters in cities, right? So here you have a table for daytime and nighttime, the types of encounters you could run into in the middle of the city. You also have a random jobs table, because some of the people you run into might have a job for you to do, right? That's another adventure queue. Beyond that, there is the urban rumor table, which is a big table that will have rumors of things going on supposedly close by. And as you can see, it's a large table with a lot of potential adventure queues there. So when you get to a town or a city, it's a place where you can find more adventure. Okay, so that's basically, I think we're gonna stop there for now. So that's basically the key elements of the sandbox form of play, with the exception that there's one other thing, which is the Dominion play that I think we've got over here. Where is this? Oh yeah. All right. So there it is. So Appendix 6 here is the small holding and domain rules, which we will eventually get to in detail. But this also is a system for if you've got a character who's a noble or someone else who has large tracts of land, to manage that land. And that also has a whole series of sandboxy style mini queues that will allow you to develop stuff for the campaign. Okay? But I think we're gonna leave it there for today. And next time we will proceed to what will be the next one. So We already did the pagan magician when I did the section on pagans. So the next one will be, well, social encounters, and then the small holding and domain rules. Okay? So thank you for watching. And again, if you like this video, please share it. Review type videos never get as many views as, you know, my rants. So please feel free to share the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Check out Baptism of Fire. Check out the Last Vikings. They work together. With this, you have a whole expanded universe of, well, of the 11th century, or rather, no, the 10th century, sorry. 10th and 11th, actually. It starts in the 10th century here and in the 11th there, but they synchronize. So you can get, like, you know, everything compatible as far as setting is concerned, and the system as well, obviously. So why not pick up both? If you haven't yet, Baptism of Fire and the Last Vikings, they go so well together. There's nothing like Christian crusading Poles and the last savage pagan Vikings. You can take your pick. And again, share this anyone you think people find it interesting or get pissed off at my success or whatever. That's fun too. And be sure to check out also The Dungeon of Doom by myself and Zoran Peterson. You will not be disappointed by this dungeon, though it is definitely kind of in the realm of gonzo as far as its style, right? It is not a medieval authentic dungeon, okay? It is a fantasy gonzo dungeon that is really wild, and you guys will be bound to like it. So check that out at the Red Room store. I guess that's everything for today. Currently smoking. This is a Stanwell. This is a Stanwell shell apple, I guess. It's not really an apple. It's kind of an egg, I guess. It's not an egg either. What the hell is this? I know there's a term for it. Anyways, with Argento roots, and there's Domino. She's all tuckered out now after trying to bite me. See you guys later.